What up, folks? It's your pal, Coach Vino, and this is the Glass Half Full podcast where we turn setbacks into comebacks. Let's go.
Yo, everybody goes through setbacks, but don't let these setbacks make you take a step back. Step back from the situation, put your brush down, envision the picture you're faith in, because everybody goes through setbacks.
All right, welcome back to the podcast. I am Coach Vino, the people's bartender, your certified coach from the Boogie Down Bronx. Hope you guys and gals have been well since the last time we hung out. I'm doing absolutely fantastic. Thank you for asking. So today I want to talk about procrastination. If there's anything I love to do on this podcast, it is to inspire and motivate you to be the best version of yourself, whether that means getting back on your feet and turning a setback into a comeback, or it means just drawing up new dreams and goals in life. But one thing that I really find is a huge detriment to your ability to achieve these things is procrastination. Now, those of you who are procrastinators are probably not even listening to this podcast in the first place. You're too lazy. But those of you that might have some procrastinating traits but aren't necessarily a real procrastinator, I think it's a good idea to listen to today's podcast and think about the different ways that being a procrastinator or procrastinating might be showing up in your life. Look, I'm not perfect. I have absolutely procrastinated on things, and I'm probably procrastinating on something right now. As a matter of fact, I have to record a YouTube video, and I'm procrastinating on that. But when it comes to actually achieving an ultimate goal, to being the best version of yourself, and to create these challenges and to overcome them, you have to understand when you're procrastinating, and you have to realize how you can get past it so that you're starting to build on some momentum and absolutely start crushing your goals. So today I just want to talk about different ways that you might be procrastinating and you don't even know it, all right? And the first one I want to talk about is delaying task. When you're consistently putting off different tasks or assignments until the last minute, even when you have mad time to complete them, that right there, that's procrastinating. And I know that seems pretty obvious, but so often we just say to ourselves, oh, I got time. You don't consider that procrastinating. You might consider that time management. No, that's procrastinating. My personal feeling is if when I get an assignment or something, I'm getting it done ASAP. You know what I'm saying? Unless it requires me to take time to think about it. But if I could just get it done, I'm going to get it done. Because that's one thing I do not like to procrastinate on. Another indicator of being a procrastinator or procrastinating is making frequent excuses. When you make excuses to justify why you haven't started or completed a task, like saying shit like, oh, I work better under pressure, or I'll do it later, that's procrastination. And I've done that in the past, like maybe when I had to study for a test, I'm like, oh, I'm better, when I study the hour before the test. The reality is I was probably out clubbing or doing something, and I just wasn't taking it seriously enough. And that's procrastination. And it for some people, they do operate better that way, potentially. But for most people, preparation is always better. So instead of making excuses, get shit done, and you won't have to make excuses. Another indicator is the lack of prioritization. When you struggle to prioritize your task and you focus on the less important or easier task instead of taking high priority items, that is potentially a sign of procrastination. But this one's a little nuanced, because if you're avoiding the high priority items because you don't want to do the work, that's procrastination. If you're not doing the high priority items because you're not ready for them yet, because the smaller tasks need to be accomplished first, then that's just time management, and that's good. So think about why you do the easy things or the smaller things first, and you'll know if you're procrastinating or not. Now, something that can lead to procrastination is when you're someone that has a difficult time starting things. When you start to find it to be a challenge to start certain tasks, and you feel overwhelmed or unsure where to begin, this type of thing leads to procrastination. And one way you can help yourself with this situation is to seek out help and guidance when you find things are difficult. If you try to do it all on your own, knowing that you have a hard time getting things started, then you're going to procrastinate. Perfectionism is another form of procrastination. When you have the tendency to want things to be perfect, you might have this fear of even starting to do a task. Because if you can't do it perfectly, that leads to avoidance and delay, which is a form of procrastination. If you're someone that wants things to always be perfect and you find that you're putting these tasks off because of that, then what you need to do is to learn to realize that nothing is perfect. Nothing will ever be perfect. You just have to give it your best. Now, similar to one of the first things I mentioned is, you're delaying stuff, putting stuff off, is also when you have really bad time management. Bad time management is another indicator of being a procrastinator or procrastinating. Because when you underestimate the time that's required to complete a certain task, that leads to procrastination because you always assume there's time to finish it later. That's different from someone who says, "Oh, I work better under pressure," or whatever like that. This is where you actually just think what you need to do isn't going to take you that long, and so you don't manage your time appropriately. But the reality is, you're just kind of avoiding the inevitable. And that's going to lead to procrastination. Avoidance of discomfort, right? That's a good one. When you procrastinate on tasks that are challenging and unpleasant, and you're like outside of your comfort zone, and you opt for short-term success over long-term progress, that's procrastination. Because instead of doing what's needed, you just do what you can. And that's not always a good thing. You're not going to push yourself to do bigger and better things if you only allow yourself to do what you can instead of what's actually needed. And you do that because you want to avoid the discomfort of pushing yourself and of being more than you think you are. And when you start to look at all of these different things that I'm talking about, you can start to see repeated patterns here. And procrastination becomes a habitual pattern where you're consistently delaying stuff and you're consistently, having unfinished tasks. Despite repeated intentions to change, things just keep going this way. And this will ultimately have a negative impact on your performance and on your well-being. Procrastination will eventually lead to increased stress, anxiety, and to guilt due to things like missing deadlines or having lower quality work and decreased productivity. None of that feels good. And it's all ultimately going to have an impact on you and your long-term goals for success and fulfillment or whatever they might be. So if you identify with any of these things that I just spoke about, it's essential for you to address how these habits can be improved. So you can reduce stress and you can achieve the goals that you set out more effectively. When you do things like trying to break tasks into smaller things and creating manageable steps and setting yourself deadlines and consequences for not reaching those deadlines. When you create structured schedules and you address this perfectionism thing, or you talk to yourself or talk to a coach or a therapist about the fear of failure, that will help you overcome these procrastination tendencies. So it's not like you have to be this procrastinating person. You can absolutely do things to improve on that. And again, we all procrastinate to a certain extent. But when it becomes habitual, if you could look at this list of patterns that I showed you, and you could say, hey, I identify with a bunch of those, that's a problem. So think about what we spoke about today, and think about how this could affect your ability to be the best version of yourself. That's what we want to do on this podcast, right? We want to make setbacks into comebacks. We want to make you the best version of yourself. We want you to kick ass. And I believe that you can do that. Well, that's all I got for you guys today. I really hope you found today's podcast helpful. And I really think that if you take your life and look at it under a microscope and realize some of these bad habitual patterns that you might have of procrastination, that you might find yourself having an unbelievable amount of success moving forward because you start to address these things in your life. All right. Well, look, if you or anyone you know wants to work with Coach Vino, please visit my website, coachvinollc.com. Or if you just want to hang out with me on social media, you can find me anywhere at Coach Vino LLC. And remember, folks, if nobody else tells you, Coach Vino appreciates you. Cheers.
I find it hard to reveal these thoughts and express what I'm feeling in a hip-hop form. But I was born to succeed, so as long as I breathe, ain't nobody on this earth gonna crush my dreams. Yo, this might be the end of the verse, but this is just the start of a new beginning. Word.